Hey dirt magicians! Welcome to our first video on winterizing your garden. Today we're going to discuss a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and it is all about what is called a living mulch, a green manure, or as I refer to it, a cover crop. You may want to consider cover cropping as it helps recycle nutrients in your soil, it stores carbon, and it protects our soils over the winter. In this video, we will discuss what a winter cover crop is, the benefits and reason to consider winter cover cropping, a few different types of winter cover crops, and when to sow for the best success. Make sure you stay right till the very end, where we will discuss what to do with the winter cover crop come the springtime. Also, make sure to download our freebie that we have for you this week, which is types of winter cover crops. This freebie goes into way more details about the different types of cover crop available and also the growing conditions they need so you can make the best choice for yourself. Click the link in the description box below to get that freebie. Just a quick note, on our channel, our mission here at Dirt Magicians is to help you learn from other gardeners, i.e. Dirt Magicians, by peeking over the garden fence. So let us help you learn by peeking over the fence. And today's fence that we're peeking over is Trisha's garden. All right, let's get into it. So what is a winter cover crop? A winter cover crop is a cold hardy plant that we usually sow in the early fall or late summer, and it protects our soil over the winter, either by being alive or it dies back. If you live in -30, nothing's gonna live, but it still will protect the soil. So examples of winter cover crops are things like winter grasses, which are winter rye and winter oat. You can tell that they grow over the winter because the name winter is literally in them. And then we also have what are called leguminous cover crops. So a winter legume is actually a plant that creates these little nodules in its roots, and that hosts a bacteria called a rhizobium. And these bacteria are able to actually reach into the atmosphere, take the nitrogen that's there, and bring it down into the plant root, feeding it to the plant. So these create really high nitrogen plants, which are great for our soil in the spring because we usually need nitrogen at that time. And they include things like winter peas and hairy vetch. All right, so what are the reasons and benefits that you should consider cover cropping? Firstly, it's the recycling of nutrients back into our soil. So if we have any leftover plant nutrients here in the soil at the end of the garden season, these cover crop babies will take them up into their plant material, and then come the spring when we're mixing that back into the soil, it's putting all of those nutrients back in here. Secondly, as I mentioned, those wonderful leguminous plants that are able to get the nitrogen from the atmosphere into the roots and through them, those are super high in nitrogen. So when we're mixing that back into the soil, we're actually adding nutrients back in, which is a pretty incredible feat of nature to be able to do so. And in case you didn't know this, nitrogen is typically used in the largest amount by our plants because it forms the DNA, the proteins, and the amino acids, and it's a component in chlorophyll. So a few more benefits. Firstly, cover crops increase water infiltration into our soil over the winter. Here where we're living in the Pacific Northwest, this is a huge deal. So this heavy rainfall is able to follow the plant roots and get deep into our soil. And that also prevents water from just sitting on the top of the soil. Now, water sitting on the top of a bare soil is really harmful to it. It can cause something called crusting, where the soil just seals over, which then makes it really hard in the spring to be able to put seeds in and have air and water flow through it. And also it can cause what's called compaction, which is where our soil, which holds its own structure, it collapses completely. And that makes it really hard to dig. It also means plant roots can't get through, water can't get through, nutrients, oxygen. You really want to avoid that. By bare soil, getting rained on will cause that. Now there's two benefits that actually are for benefiting our environment. Firstly, we can sequester carbon and contribute to mitigating climate change. So what I mean by this is that these beauties actually take carbon from our atmosphere and it goes into their plant tissue. And then come the springtime, when we turn that plant tissue into the soil, we are storing that carbon in the soil. So we've taken it out of the atmosphere. The other benefit to the environment is that some of these beauties, like hairy vetch, is really great for our pollinators as they flower in the early spring. So when there's not much else flowering, we are giving some pollen to our lovely pollinators. Now, the final benefit or reason you should cover crop that I'm going to cover is a cover crop's ability to take heavy metals out of our soil. So a heavy metal is a toxic metal to you and I, and it lives in the soil. And it can be caused if we live near somewhere with heavy traffic, so if you've got a community garden plot and a busy street access, if there was industrial activities with the soil that you were using, or it's directly below a house that used to have old lead paint. We're gonna have heavy metals in that soil, and then our veggies will take them up, and then we're eating them, which is no bueno. So things like winter rye and white clover actually take large amounts of those heavy metals into their plant tissue, and in the spring, we would just pull those plants completely out and put them in the garbage, and then we've removed the heavy metals from our soil. Isn't that amazing how healing Mother Nature is? Okay, so now I want to talk about a few different plants that would make up our winter cover crops. For a full list, check out our freebie on all the different types. So these are just a few. So we typically separate winter cover crops into two categories. Firstly are the grasses. So this includes things like fall rye and winter wheat. And these are the ones that cycle the nutrients. So they take anything that's left over in our soils and then we mix them in later. The second grouping are our legumes. So these include things like hairy vetch and winter peas, and these are going to add nitrogen into our soil. These are just a few examples and the ones that I'm using in my garden for this year. But our freebie has a comprehensive list of all of the different types of winter cover crops as well as their growing conditions, so you can make the right choice for yourself. So don't forget to click the link in the description box below and download that freebie. Wow, cover crop, it's the spring and you've done so well. I'm totally kidding. It's still the same day. I just dug this out from a ditch, but I wanted to show you what to do with a cover crop come the springtime. So let's get into it with our lovely staged and very sad looking clover, which is actually a cover crop. So in the spring, what we'd want to do with this is cut it up into pieces. The smaller pieces you chop this stuff in, the faster our microorganisms could get to breaking them down into the soil. Then once we've cut it all the way to the base, that came completely out, we're gonna wanna dig it right into the soil. So we just kind of flip it over here and bury it. And that way our soil organisms can start eating it. All right, Dirt Magicians, that's the end of our video. If you learned something valuable, so that like button and the subscribe button, as it helps up and coming content creators like us. See you next time.